To whomever is listening to this, thank you, and welcome to my first ever audio review. The first film that has been selected is Logan. Unlike those in the X-Men series so far featuring the entire team, every standalone Wolverine film so far has been pretty poor, I have to say. I feel that for me, both X-Men Origins Wolverine in 2009 and Simply the Wolverine in 2013 both failed to capture the intensity and the excitement that the character brought to the screen so well in other previous installments. Despite having a substantial role in X-Men Days of Future Past in 2014, Logan became the third and final chance to give audiences the standalone Wolverine film that we finally expect to see and deserve. I will confess that the track record of bad Wolverine spin-offs was a slight drawback from my initial expectations. The only thing that was abundantly clear that caught my attention was how the poster, as seen on screen now, shows Wolverine as somewhat washed up, tired and beaten. It reveals that he looks older and less immortal than the previous films have said, but it also implies that we may see a completely different side to Wolverine this time round. After watching it, Logan totally blew its spin-off predecessors out of the water and was an absolute rollercoaster of a film. Starring Hugh Jackman in his ninth and final role as Logan, this film brings a side to the character that has never really been shown before. Out of all the films that Jackman has played Logan, beginning all the way back in 2000, there's barely been a single fault with his performances. He's always ticked every box in how the character is represented, from both the original comics and how he's been written and directed for the big screen. So his final role in Logan is probably the most fulfilling that he has given because the film unleashes his true nature. Brutal, emotionally wrecked, and just a diabolical badass. Following in similar footsteps to last year's Deadpool, Logan has defied against how Hollywood, especially those currently in the MCU, expect Marvel comic adaptations to be, by reflecting an honest and faithful portrayal of the character based on its original sources. Much of this was down to the film's use of violence. For us in the UK, it was the first time that we've seen a film featuring Wolverine that has a rating of 15. Now, whether it is scenes of Logan thrusting his knife claws, so to speak, through someone's skull, or the graphic attention to detail from wounds, this type of violence ultimately establishes that this is who he really is, what he is capable of doing, and what underworld he comes from. So as we'd never seen him in this way before, the violence was actually overwhelming to see, not necessarily uncomfortable to watch, but because it was such an alteration from what we've previously seen of the character in action. It wasn't violent because it had to be or wanted to be, it just gelled nicely with the nature of the characters and the story it was telling. It felt more about the human side of the character than the comical, perhaps enhanced further by regularly including Logan's real name, James Howlett. In addition to Jackman's triumphant performance, we also see the return of Sir Patrick Stewart as Professor Charles Xavier, who lost an astounding £21 to reprise his role. In Logan, Xavier is at his lowest on an emotional level, and yet is at his highest surrounding his telepathic power. The on-screen chemistry that Stewart shares with Jackman still feels the same as many years ago when they first appeared together. Only this time, as Logan is also the final time that Stewart will portray Charles Xavier, the film is almost written deliberately to bring Xavier and Logan closer together to meet the story. This idea worked nicely, as it showed their relationship outside of being mutants, but as human beings, who are supposedly their enemies. Alongside Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart, there are also other new characters who play a significant role in capturing a raw, brutal, and sometimes genuine part in the film. Caliban has a bigger role this time than he did in 2016's X-Men Apocalypse, as he is played by Stephen Merchant. More significantly though are performances by Boyd Holbrook as Donald Pierce, a dangerous military leader on a mission, and Daphne Keane as Laura. Holbrook's role is one of those that you'll grow to love to hate. As a villain and as a human, he is Logan's match. He's dangerous, he's intimidating, and he's simply another brilliant Marvel antagonist. So hopefully Holbrook will shine in more films to come following this terrific performance. As for Daphne Keane's performance as Laura, she was absolutely superb. There aren't many actors in Marvel adaptations these days who can outshine Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, but Keane's role, I have to say, was pretty close. Seeing her stand by his side shows the humane innocence of children, which is often represented in films like these, but more importantly, reflects her mysteriousness and the potential that she has from when you first see her. She even gave Hugh Jackman of all people a run for his money in this role and showed that actions can indeed speak louder than words. To further capture the dark and brutal tone from a technical standpoint was its dystopian and futuristic timeline. Set in 2029 America, the film follows in similar footsteps in terms of action and cinematography to Mad Max Fury Road. The action didn't try too hard, and it didn't feature many cutaway shots like how many blockbusters confuse with great action sequences. The aesthetics and dystopian settings were part of the action, and it added a stronger and more realistic effect. Director James Mangold takes a giant leap with Logan than he previously did with the Wolverine by giving us drama and action that has a stronger emphasis on plot and characters than about visual effects. So strap in, folks, without young kids, and prepare to witness one of Wolverine's finest films. Logan is proof that some films based on comics don't always fall into the superhero category, and distracts from that by showing a more realistic depiction of that world. The film justified everything about the Wolverine character and ticks all the boxes. It is a superb finale to Jackman's portrayal, as well as Patrick Stewart's as Charles Xavier, and there'll never be another, hopefully not, duo like them in any other Marvel adaptation ever again. I didn't think I'd say this, but it somewhat feels appropriate to conclude Wolverine's run at this point, but it's also disappointing, as it felt like it was just beginning again. Despite this, though, the film may reach new levels for the superhero genre in years to come. I give this film an impressive 4 stars.